Yeah,
Welcome, Mark. Thanks for joining me on such short notice.
including this
Yes.
document.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on that document? I seen you were in the chat when I
My
was reading
pleasure.
it.
Always good to see you, Millbilly. And that's yeah, and it was. That was this morning. I actually, because of the time difference between you and I woke up fairly early this morning, about 5:30 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
and there it was. Someone had posted it, and that would have been 2:30 p.m. Posted. So I lay in bed with my iPhone, which is not the best thing to read something from, and read this whole document page front to back. And you got to keep squeezing the pages in and
Yeah,
squeezing them out. And
same thing.
but
I was
it
waiting
wasn't.
for my daughter to get out of school when I got the update about it. So I sat there in the car reading it, waiting for her to get out.
I think
As soon as I got home, and
it took me about an hour and a half to read it. But you know what? Just as an overall first up comment, it was music to my ears. I just loved reading it. Forget about all the connection we might have and our views about Stephen's innocence, just from a justice point of view. It was just a really clinical analysis of what the appeals court didn't understand, didn't consider, and had a lack of grasp of well-founded court law and precedents. So to me, I'm reading this thing thinking, this is so beautifully written, and just pointing out where the appeals court really were inadequate in their role, basically, which of course a lot of us felt anyway when the appeal court decision came out back on the 28th of July. I'm obviously not a lawyer, but I read it and thought, this just doesn't read right. It didn't cover a lot of issues. The court felt to me like it was being judge and jury all in the same breath, and purported to hold opinions that a jury might have about certain things when it's not meant to be a trier of facts. It's
they
meant to be
contradict themselves. Like they're not a fact finding. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. The essence of Kathleen's appeal petition, and now this further one up to the Supreme Court, was that Stephen, on the basis of precedents and evidence, is entitled to, on face value, have an evidentiary hearing about the matters in the petition. He's entitled to the presumption that those matters have veracity that would justify a hearing, and the hearing itself is meant to be the analysis of how good or otherwise that information is. That's what she's trying to get Stephen. That's his justice right.
Yep.
Right? He's entitled to that. And unfortunately, the Court of Appeal didn't really address the reasons in the way they should have. And so Kathleen's gone through this process, it would seem, when I read it all, of just pointing out both case law at the United States Supreme Court, let alone Wisconsin, case law, precedents, interpretation of what certain things mean, and said that the Court of Appeals were requiring a pleading standard. In other words, in layman's terms, a set of obligations to plead his case at a much higher level than that anyone should have, and that he would be obliged to have under normal law. So that's one issue. The second issue goes into the issue of the consideration of the Veely CD as a Brady claim and what that meant. And the third issue is the issue of the bones. But she very, I shouldn't say cleverly, she very professionally weaves in all the other issues into those three main arguments that highlight the inadequacies of the Court of Appeals determination.
Yeah, when I was reading the portion about the Veely I got to chuckling a little bit during it because just the way she worded everything, it was great.
Yeah. I remember I heard you have a chuckle this morning. You were talking about, she made some comment about Stephen's inadequacy of being pro se petitioner when he's locked behind bars in jail, right, or something like that. I forget what the wording was.
Experiments inside of his cell when he's so far from the Avery Sellers yard. Like, yeah, that definitely made me chuckle. Yeah. What, have you talked to Stephen?
Yeah.
What's his thoughts on all this?
I haven't spoken to him today. I suspect I will talk to him tomorrow, my time, it'll be later today, your time. So if you want to have a chat about his views, we can have another quick chat tomorrow if you like. But
for sure.
I did have a chat to Sandra and today, and she said that Stephen was very happy with what had happened or with what had been presented. But I mean, and he should be. Seriously, this is a highly quality document that doesn't try to be a smart ass. It just tries to demonstrate where the appeal court failed in its duty, both as a court and as having an understanding of the facts of the matter, you know. And yeah, I found it fascinating to read, and I tried to think of something else that I would want to see in this petition that wasn't there, and I couldn't find it.
No,
it was all there. Because what Stephen is asking for, Stephen is not asking to be found not guilty.
No, he's asking for.
That's not what this is about.
Evidentiary.
He's asking for evidentiary hearing, or a new trial. He's just asking for his normal justice rights to prevail on him.
We got Ken Kratz on an interview saying that he thinks Stephen needs a new trial too. So.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've seen
well, it. That's quite the statement. When did that happen? Today? You mean?
No, this happened a while ago.
Okay. Yeah.
I can't remember who interviewed him.
Yeah. I mean, we all want, if you take Stephen's name off this petition.
I think it was Dateline.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay. You take Stephen's name off this petition and just say we don't even know the man.
Yep.
You know, the justice process has a series of steps that a person who's convicted, previous to be convicted and post-conviction, is entitled to. Stephen is just simply, through his lawyer, asking for his justice rights, and those rights, in simple terms, is a minimum of an evidentiary hearing, which is entitled to the presumption that it's valid. It's not for the court to say, I don't think the jury would find that matter would have influenced them. That's not for the appeal court to determine that. That's for the assessment following an evidentiary hearing. Or if the breaches are so grievous on their value that they should just order a new trial, or even better, just release him.
They're not going to do that. They're not just going to release him. I wish they would, but I mean, look what they did to Brandon.
You know,
he was set to be released, and they fought it tooth and nail.
Yeah, because of Stephen. Yeah, that's the reason. I've actually, you would know, I guess, that I've been doing a few little sort of personal question and answer things with Stephen. And I have another one that's kind of ready for release now. But I'm going to tell you a question in it there, but I'm not going to tell you what the answer is, and you'll listen to it. But one of the supporters put the question to Stephen that I relayed to him was, if the state came to you and said, we'll release you provided you don't sue us, right? What would your choice be? That was, would he want to come out or would he stay in? That's one of the questions I put to Stephen, and you need to hear his reply in his words, not mine, to understand what you're dealing with here.
I'm sure he would want to get out and have a clear name.
Yes. And his value set is way beyond him personally. This is not for Stephen just about him.
Yeah.
It's about the whole process of justice, about preventing other things happening to people in the future. It's about restoring accountability for bad behavior.
Yeah.
So that's where his head's at. And so it's an important thing to understand when you're dealing with Stephen Haybee. Stephen Avery. You're just not dealing with someone who's got his own interests solely at heart.
Mm-hmm.
So,
There's a big picture.
very much so. So yeah, I enjoyed reading this. I don't think that makes me overly weird, but it's just a beautiful piece of writing and so thoroughly and comprehensively constructed. I mean, gee whiz, she's only effectively had 4 weeks to do this.
Mm-hmm. And
Yeah,
she
gather her
filed it the day
thoughts.
before the Court of Appeals was supposed to submit their cut down version of their response.
Yes.
So,
And it's beautiful. Stephen and everyone should be grateful that someone of the caliber of Kathleen Zellner is driving this process. Obviously, her and her team.
well, I've said it before. It's like a chess match.
Yeah.
You got to be thinking 3 steps ahead. Got to have a backup plan to your backup plan, especially with his case.
See, one of the benefits of where this is heading, notwithstanding that Stephen's still in prison, is this is all now part of the record. And so as the Court of Appeal responded in the way they did, their response, inadequate as it is part of the record that demonstrates their lack of understanding of the case. If the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and I'm not suggesting they would, but if they were to give this just a cursory, dismissive look, that is laying the platform for a federal claim, a habeas claim on the denial of his rights. And so it's really up to Wisconsin to take the Stephen Avery name off this petition and call it Joe anybody and say, on the merits, does this person deserve an evidentiary hearing? And clearly he does.
Well,
they just tainted their view because it's Stephen Avery.
Looking at his case, didn't have any connection with him at all, but they all do.
Yeah.
Back from when he first started his appeals. So, and
yeah,
you got Gundrum, he was on the Avery bill task force. So,
exactly. It's disappointing, but I really feel I'd like to think that the Court of Appeals were just, with due respect to them, were just not that competent. I'd like to think that was the reason, but they went to so much trouble to deny Stephen what should be his natural right that then you have to say there's some degree of culpability in their decision, that they were trying to achieve an outcome rather than assess the merits of what was presented. That aspect of it disappoints me because that shows bad faith. You don't have to like Stephen to want justice to be delivered.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't matter who he is or whatever, he's entitled to his justice rights. And the Court of Appeals decision, or what they wrote in that, demonstrates that they were not in grasp of, one, all the facts, and two, the pleading obligations. So I'm just hoping at the Supreme Court level we get a different attitude.
When do you think
but
we'll get a response
time will tell.
back from the Supreme Court? That's another good question.
Again, forgive me because I can't be sure about that because I'm not a lawyer. How this goes,
Neither.
there'll be someone who does know that.
I'll
I think the first thing they have to,
with Travis, see what he has to say.
yeah, I think there's 2 parts to that. I think, Millbilly, the first part is, will they grant the right to see it, right?
Yeah.
So you seek leave to appeal. That means you're seeking permission. They can just go, no, we're not dealing with this. I can't see that happening. Now that could be relatively quick, that part of it.
Yeah.
But then once they say, yes, we're going to consider this matter, then how long it takes for them to do it. I can't imagine the Supreme Court of Wisconsin has a barrage of cases at that level. In fact, it's hard to imagine when you look at the facts of this matter, how this matter even had to find its way to the Supreme Court. I mean, arguing the merits of pleadings, arguing the merits of Brady and statute law in regard to preservation of biological evidence. I mean, if I'm a Supreme Court justice, I'm thinking, how's it got this far to come to us on these issues?
Yep. And the fact that when they gave KZ their summary report of the case of investigation, they left out 2 pages.
Yes.
About them giving the bones back.
That's what I mean about bad faith. You know, let's just say we all hated Stephen Avery, you know, do you still want him to get justice? Yes, you do, because that's the same system that delivers justice to everybody. Justice should not be selective.
In his position, anybody could be in his situation. There's people in his situation. We just don't know about it. That's the sad fact about everything.
Correct.
If it wasn't for making a murder, we wouldn't know Stephen Avery. I mean, some of us, I've grown up in Wisconsin, but until the documentary came out, he was pretty much old news.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a very driving force.
It's going to get swept under the rug.
Yeah. That's never going to happen. That is never going to happen. You know, heaven forbid Stephen stays healthy and well for decades to come. But even if he was to pass away and he's still in prison because he's on a non-parole charge, I know KZ and her team and successors to her team will fight this for his estate, let alone for him personally. So this matter is not going away. And the reason it's not going away is because Stephen and Brendan are innocent. It's not just we have this bizarre love and desire of Stephen Avery, even though, you know, we do like him because we know him, but it's because he hasn't been delivered justice. That's why this is not going away. And I'll be interested to know from Travis what he thinks, or Tracy, what they think about the timing issues. But if I'm the Supreme Court reading this, or even if I'm the downstream players on that side, thinking, holy crap, this is not going away. And how are they going to refute the arguments that are put in here? This is an argument to give Stephen his justice right to have an evidentiary hearing to give weight to the matters that he's claiming occurred.
The fact they violated their own state statute.
I know. I mean, that's the issue of bad faith that really irks me, because that shows you they're not interested in justice. They're interested in an outcome.
Yep. Just like when the prosecution handed over the 7 DVDs, they led them to believe that there was no evidentiary value, and it was Brendan's stuff.
Yes.
And I've heard Beauty
and
Strange say that they had so much stuff to go over in so little time.
And they got that almost at the 11th hour anyway, that stipulation about that.
Yeah.
They were coming up for their hearing, for their final hearing on a Denny claim. And so, you know, Mr. Kratz and his team knowingly withheld information. And I believe evidence is both in form and substance. So the mere existence of a state-based document on a CD, irrespective of how much of that might be somewhere else on another document, is still a piece of evidence.
Well, the fact that
the defense is entitled to that.
They kept it in possession for 12 years.
That's right.
What else are they keeping hidden too? We got the missing zipper voicemail that's never been seen. We got dog reports that they won't release. Missing
phone calls.
Yep.
From dispatch.
Missing
flyover video, highly edited.
Release.
Yeah. Yes.
That just baffles my mind. We got thousands of jail calls between Stephen and everybody he called, but they won't let us get those several calls between the 27th of October and the 8th of November. Why?
Yeah. exactly.
Why would anything that happened before Teresa came to the salvage yard, Matt? Why would that need to be hidden?
Exactly. I mean, if everything's honky dory, you don't have to hide a thing. You put it all on the table. Stephen's guilty. Hide anything, none whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
So that behaviour is highly culpable and suspicious. So, you know, therein lies the problem, because they clearly, with the benefit of not knowing about making a murderer at the time, they just conducted the standard let's railroad this guy approach, not realizing, 10 years later, what would be uncovered.
And it just bothers me that they're like, he should have done all this stuff when he had no information. How is he supposed to investigate things like,
I have a question for you, though. It's just a little piece of fact that I don't know the answer to. What triggered the discovery and release to KZ of the Veely CD back in 2018? What was the thing that caused that to be suddenly found and handed over?
Good question. I know everything that KZ had initially brought in their first filing, they opened up another investigation. So
maybe Veely himself was a bit worried.
It may have been from when Brad went to the police after that car ride to go see Brendan. I don't know.
Yeah, at some point, someone had a decision in their head. Well, we better let this out. It's going to be worse for us if it's going to be found that we know that it's not out there, and we kept hanging on to it. Mm-hmm. So I suspect there was probably something in the background that was going to cause it to be revealed, that they wanted to beat to the post and reveal it themselves. I mean, I really can't remember what was the possible explanation as to why it wasn't in the records of the court rather than in Tom Fassbender's cabinet, so to speak.
Deliberately?
It can't be. I mean, who? Why would he be holding it anyway, irrespective of anything else? Why would he be holding it? So
I wish Dean and Jerry would have had somebody go over all the audio they were given.
Yeah, there's a lot of things you could do with the benefit of hindsight, knowing the degree of corrupt behavior that was underpinning all this.
Well, anytime they got anywhere close in his pre-trial motion and everything, anytime they got close to any kind of timeline, Kratz or Fallon shut it down. Like, he tried establishing a timeline of what happened on the 3rd of November, and then Fallon's like, objection, what does this have to do with search warrants? He has a good point, but he's just trying to establish what Colborn did.
Yeah. And why are you objecting anyway?
Because they know the truth. That's the thing. They know what happened. You'd have to know what happened in order to frame somebody.
Correct. And you have to keep the narrative consistent, right? You have to have everyone staying on course with the same story to be consistent. So anyway, look, I'm really happy with what Kathleen Zellner has done in this petition. It's extremely clinical and thorough. It's well documented and supported by case law and US Supreme Court precedents. And there's nothing in here at all that I read that thought, oh, well, that's a bit sort of maybe this or maybe that. It all was on point for all the arguments she was making. And as a consequence of that, made you realise, or even more, if you hadn't already realised, how poorly a job the appeal court had done in assessing her first round of petitions. So hopefully the Supreme Court will grant the evidentiary hearing, and then we'll have another moment when people are on the record, both not just in the written form, but they're given evidence under oath.
I wonder if there's anything else that they gave away that we don't know about.
I'm curious to see what sort of form the RAB's in. You know, what form is the RAB? What sort of storage form is the RAB in, if it exists at all?
Apparently, it's inside a crate inside the parking garage of the Milwaukee DCI storage. That's what I've heard.
Oh, you mean it got moved from Chilton, some storage locker there, down to Milwaukee?
Yeah, I heard it's in the Milwaukee storage now, where they keep all their evidence. There's the Madison office and then the Milwaukee for the DCI.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's lots to be discovered there. I think there's lots to be discovered by examining under oath people with due respect to people like Mrs. Holbach, to understand what was the course of events that led to Teresa's remains being returned to her. How did that come to her? Who asked? Who said? Who gave her the assurance that they were her daughter's remains? You know, there's a lot to be determined under a examination, I should say, not cross-examination. So, and others, of course, but they're just some of the ones, yeah.
Well, I'm sure when they gave the bones back, they made sure they were destroyed as much as they could before they gave them back. I'm sure they just didn't pull them out the box and throw them in an urn and give them to them.
No. But the sheer fact that those bones are now no longer part of the evidence, contrary to the statute, should be enough to release Stephen. That on itself should be enough to release Stephen, because his natural rights have been prejudiced by a statutory violation.
Just like Bill Cosby, his trial, they were told not to use something that they used in his civil case for his criminal, and they did the exact opposite, and that's why they let him out.
Yeah. And if you think about this scenario, Millbilly, if we accept the principle that the bones have been effectively destroyed, let's say that, and they grant Stephen a new trial, which even if they do this, I don't, in my wildest dreams, can imagine the state trying to re-prosecute Stephen Avery. But if they did, what's then going to be their bone evidence? It's allegedly all gone.
Yeah.
So where's their evidence of anything?
And
no photos in situ of the
nowhere near Avery's property.
Yeah.
All three
but in theory
are not on Hoddinott's property or Stephen Avery's property. It's on the Manitowoc County property.
Gravel pit. Yeah. But the very elements that were corruptly argued won't exist. So I don't think you even get anywhere close to prosecuting Stephen Avery again, because the very things that they had against him the first time have either disappeared or been disproven.
The most important thing is that we get justice for Teresa.
Exactly. And if I'm Mr. and Mrs. Holbach, I don't want an innocent man in jail. You know, why would you want that? And you think we're now talking about two innocent men who were tied together for the sake of getting one. How are you going to feel as a mother that the so-called police who said you can trust us have caused her to be the subject of putting two innocent men in prison, as happened with Penny Bernstein back in Stephen's first trial in 1985. So that's a very unsavoury outcome. You'd have to think that Mrs. Holbach, I know Mr. Holbach is not Teresa's dad, but he was her stepdad, I think, if I've got that right.
Her father died in the 80s in Florida, and her uncle married her mother. Her
Yeah.
uncle and her father were running the farm.
Okay. So I mean, you can't want that for your daughter. You cannot want that for your daughter. And
So that means
I,
Mike, Tim, and Teresa are all have one father, and Emily and another one.
yeah, with the uncle.
Yep.
Yeah. So he's is Mr. Horbach, the current Mr. Horbach. Is his first name Tom? Is that what it is, Tom?
Yeah, her father's name was Richard.
Yeah. So I think his name's Tom, and yeah. So anyway, a lot of that evidence will only get really fleshed out and tested and given its fair justice moment when it gets to an evidentiary hearing.
Speaking of her father, that's a mystery right there. How did he die? I've heard.
I don't know.
I heard scuba dive accident. I heard car accident. Just the timing of when he died and how fast they got his body back to Wisconsin for a funeral baffles my mind. Especially this is the 80s.
Yep.
But
yeah, I don't really know much about any of that. So
lots of things people don't know about. I got a great team that works with me. I see.
Oh, I know that. Yeah.
Some of the stuff they come with is just mind-boggling. We all have our expertise in different areas, but got to come together.
Yeah, and that's the really powerful part of the supporters who are heavily involved in this is that there's just little different jigsaw pieces that when we come together, it's extremely powerful, and it's really quite enriching to be part of that group, to participate as part of that group.
Yep.
And so I've given KZ a 12 out of 10. When I marked her appeal petition, not that she needs me to mark it, but fabulous, really thoroughly done. And let's see what happens from here. I mean, the other thing, as she's always said, as we know, she says she never rests on her laurels. She'll be out there without me knowing. She'll be out there investigating and constantly looking into things in the background.
Mm-hmm.
She keeps this process on and on and on. She doesn't just pick a handful of things and sits back and goes.
Tons of stuff under her sleeve. She's just waiting to get her foot in the door. That's it.
Correct.
And it's all like Donkey Kong. The wrecking crew will prevail.
Indeed. Righto. So if I have a chat to Stephen in the morning, my time, which will be when now be your afternoon, I guess, midday, lunchtime. You might be up then. I'll give you a buzz and I'll give you a little rundown on how he's feeling about things. But I've been speaking to him a lot lately. He's a very positive mood, so I'm sure he'll be extra thrilled with this. Yeah.
Well, thank you again, and look forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, thanks, mate. All the best, and really appreciate everything you and your team do. It's fabulous work, so thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. All the best.
All right, later.
Bye.